The rain had been falling for hours when 12-year-old Lily stood alone outside the grocery store, clutching a soaked backpack against her chest. Cars splashed through puddles without slowing down. People rushed past her with umbrellas and shopping bags, too busy to notice the frightened little girl trembling near the sidewalk. Then an old man in a faded brown coat stopped walking. He looked at Lily for only a moment before quietly taking off his own jacket and placing it over her shoulders. He didn't know her name. He didn't ask for anything in return. But that one small act of kindness would change not only Lily's life, it would ripple through an entire town for years to come. Some people believe kindness is small. Just a smile. A helping hand. A few gentle words. But sometimes kindness becomes the reason someone keeps going. Before we begin today's story, take a moment to subscribe, like this video, and leave a comment sharing the kindest thing someone has ever done for you. Stories like these remind us that even in the darkest moments, compassion still exists in the world. Lily Harper lived in a small town in Ohio with her mother, Sarah. Their apartment sat above an old laundromat beside the railroad tracks. The walls were thin, the heater barely worked during winter, and the kitchen smelled faintly of rust and soap. But Sarah always tried to make it feel like home. Every morning before school, Sarah would braid Lily's hair while humming old country songs she heard growing up in Kentucky. She would smile no matter how tired she looked. "Things will get better," she always said. But Lily was old enough to know life was hard. Sarah worked 2 jobs. During the day she cleaned rooms at a motel near the highway. At night she waited tables at a diner called Maggie's Grill. Some nights she came home so exhausted she fell asleep sitting at the kitchen table. Lily tried not to complain. She helped with laundry, washed dishes, and kept her grades high. But deep down, she worried constantly. Especially after the eviction notice arrived. Sarah hid the paper inside a drawer, but Lily found it while looking for scissors. The words felt heavy in her chest. Final notice. 3 months behind on rent. That night Lily listened through the bedroom wall while her mother cried softly into the phone. "I'm trying," Sarah whispered. "I'm doing everything I can." Lily pulled her blanket tighter and stared into the darkness. She wished someone would help them. The next afternoon, Lily stayed late at school to finish a science project. By the time she walked home, dark clouds had covered the sky. Rain poured down before she reached the grocery store on Maple Avenue. She stepped under the awning near the entrance, shivering as cold water soaked through her hoodie. People hurried past her. A woman glanced at Lily and quickly looked away. A businessman nearly bumped into her without apologizing. 2 teenagers laughed while running through puddles. Lily hugged her backpack tighter and tried not to cry. That was when she noticed the old man. He sat on a bench near the entrance feeding tiny pieces of bread to pigeons despite the rain. His gray beard looked untrimmed, and his shoes were worn at the edges. Most people probably thought he was homeless. But his eyes were kind. When he saw Lily trembling, he slowly stood and walked toward her. "You'll freeze out here," he said gently. "I'm okay," Lily lied. The old man looked at her soaked sleeves and smiled sadly. "No child standing alone in the rain is okay." Before Lily could answer, he removed his coat and draped it around her shoulders. It smelled faintly like cedarwood and coffee. "You need this more than I do," he said. "But you'll be cold," Lily replied. "I've survived 72 winters," he chuckled. "I think I can handle one more rainy afternoon." Lily hesitated. No stranger had ever spoken to her so warmly before. "What's your name?" he asked. "Lily." "Well, Lily, I'm Walter." Thunder echoed across the sky. Walter glanced toward the road. "Do you live nearby?" She nodded. "Then let me walk you home." At first Lily wanted to refuse. Her mother had warned her about strangers. But something about Walter felt safe. They walked together through the rain while cars hissed past on wet streets. Walter talked the entire way, mostly silly stories about his old dog named Rusty who once stole an entire Thanksgiving turkey from the kitchen counter. For the first time in weeks, Lily laughed. When they reached her apartment building, Walter stopped near the stairs. "You should get inside," he said. Lily carefully removed the coat. But Walter shook his head. "Keep it." "I can't." "Yes, you can." He smiled softly. "Sometimes people need reminding that they matter." Lily stared at him quietly. Then she did something unexpected. She hugged him. Walter froze for a second before gently hugging her back. "Thank you," she whispered. As Lily climbed the stairs, she looked back once more. Walter stood alone in the rain watching her safely reach the door. Then he turned and walked away. That night Sarah noticed the oversized brown coat hanging near the heater. "Where did that come from?" she asked. Lily told her everything. Sarah listened carefully. When the story ended, she looked emotional. "There are still good people in this world," she whispered. Lily nodded. But neither of them realized how important Walter would soon become. 2 weeks later, Sarah collapsed during her shift at the diner. The doctor said exhaustion and stress had pushed her body too far. She needed rest. Rest was impossible. No work meant no money. No money meant losing their apartment. Sarah tried to hide her fear from Lily, but children notice more than adults think. One evening Lily sat alone outside the apartment building while her mother slept upstairs. She stared at passing cars and wondered what would happen to them. Then she heard a familiar voice. "Mind if I sit here?" Walter lowered himself onto the bench beside her. His sweater looked old, but clean. He carried 2 cups of hot chocolate from the convenience store. Lily smiled for the first time all day. "You disappeared," she said. "I volunteer at the church shelter on weekends," Walter replied. "Keeps me busy." He handed her the hot chocolate. "What's troubling you, kiddo?" The kindness in his voice broke something inside her. Before she realized it, tears filled her eyes. "My mom is sick," she whispered. Walter listened quietly while Lily explained everything. When she finished, he sat silently for a long moment. Then he nodded slowly. "Your mother sounds strong." "She's tired. The strongest people usually are." Lily wiped her eyes. "I'm scared." Walter looked toward the darkening sky. "When I was young," he began softly, "my wife used to say fear grows best in silence. That's why people need each other." Lily glanced at him. "You were married?" Walter smiled sadly. 43 years. "What happened?" "She passed away 6 years ago." "I'm sorry." "Thank you." For a moment his eyes looked distant, like he was remembering another life. "She believed kindness was the closest thing we have to magic," he continued. "She used to help everyone. Neighbors. Strangers. Lost animals. Didn't matter who." "What was her name?" "Evelyn." Walter smiled gently. "She would have liked you." The next morning, someone knocked on Sarah's apartment door. When Sarah opened it, she found bags of groceries sitting outside. Bread. Soup. Eggs. Fruit. Milk. No note. Just food. Sarah looked confused. The same thing happened 3 days later. And again the next week. Soon other small miracles started appearing. An envelope with grocery store gift cards. A repaired heater. Fresh winter blankets. Neither Sarah nor Lily knew where the help came from. But Lily had a feeling. One afternoon she walked to the park near the church shelter. Sure enough, Walter sat feeding birds near the fountain. "You're helping us," Lily said immediately. Walter looked innocent. "I have no idea what you mean." "Yes, You do. He smiled without answering. Lily sat beside him. You shouldn't spend money on us. Walter shrugged. Money's not very useful sitting in a bank account. You need it too. Walter chuckled softly. At my age, happiness matters more than money. Lily stared at him carefully. You really miss your wife, don't you? Walter's smile faded slightly. Every day. For a while they sat in silence watching pigeons flutter across the square. Then Walter spoke again. After Evelyn died, I stopped talking to people. Stayed alone most days. Felt easier that way. What changed? You. Lily blinked. Walter looked at her kindly. That rainy afternoon reminded me something important. What? That kindness only matters when it's shared. Weeks passed. Sarah slowly recovered and returned to work part-time. Life was still difficult, but somehow things no longer felt hopeless. Walter became part of their lives. Every Sunday he visited for dinner. He taught Lily how to play chess using an old wooden set missing 2 pawns. He fixed broken cabinets around the apartment. He even convinced Sarah to laugh again. One snowy evening near Christmas, the 3 of them decorated a tiny artificial tree from a thrift store. Walter placed the crooked star on top and stepped back proudly. Perfect, he declared. Lily laughed. It's leaning sideways. That's what gives it character. Sarah watched them with watery eyes. For the first time since her husband abandoned them years earlier, the apartment felt warm again. But not everyone in town saw Walter the same way Lily did. Some people viewed him as nothing more than an old drifter. At school Lily overheard classmates whispering after Walter picked her up one afternoon. That homeless guy is weird. Why does she hang around him? She probably feels sorry for him. The comments hurt. That evening Lily told Walter what happened. He listened calmly while stirring sugar into his coffee at Maggie's grill. People fear what they don't understand, he said. They shouldn't judge you. Walter smiled gently. Most folks carry pain you can't see. Sometimes judgment is just sadness wearing armor. Lily frowned thoughtfully. You always say things like that. That's because I'm old, he laughed. Then his expression softened. Promise me something. What? No matter how cruel the world gets, don't stop being kind. Lily nodded. But soon she would discover how difficult that promise could become. A few days before Christmas, Sarah's landlord arrived unexpectedly. He stood in the hallway holding paperwork. You're still behind on rent, he said bluntly. Sarah's face paled. I'm trying to catch up. I've heard that before. Lily watched silently from the kitchen doorway. The landlord sighed heavily. I'm sorry, Sarah, but if payment doesn't come by next month, I'll have no choice. After he left, Sarah sat at the table staring blankly ahead. Lily felt panic rising in her chest. They were going to lose everything. That night Lily couldn't sleep. Around midnight she quietly put on her coat and walked through the snow to the church shelter. Inside, volunteers prepared beds for families escaping the cold. Walter stood stacking canned food near the kitchen. When he saw Lily, concern filled his face. What are you doing here this late? Tears spilled down her cheeks. We're getting evicted. Walter immediately pulled her into a hug. It'll be okay. No, it won't. Her voice cracked. I'm tired of pretending things are okay. Walter guided her to a chair near the heater. Then he sat beside her silently until her crying slowed. You know, he said softly, when Evelyn got sick, I was terrified. Lily looked up. She had cancer. The doctors tried everything. Walter stared into the distance. One night in the hospital I broke down completely. I remember sitting in a hallway thinking I couldn't survive losing her. What happened? A nurse sat beside me. Walter smiled faintly. She didn't say anything wise or magical. She just stayed there holding my hand. Lily listened quietly. And somehow, Walter continued, that small kindness gave me strength to keep going. He looked directly at Lily. You don't have to carry fear alone. The next morning, Walter disappeared. No one knew where he went. 2 days passed. Then 3. Lily worried constantly. On Christmas Eve, a black pickup truck stopped outside the apartment building. A tall man stepped out carrying boxes. Delivery for Sarah Harper, he announced. Sarah looked confused. Inside the boxes were wrapped presents, groceries, warm clothes, and a sealed envelope. With trembling hands, Sarah opened the letter. Inside was a cashier's check covering every dollar of overdue rent. Sarah gasped. What is it? Lily asked. Tears filled Sarah's eyes. We can stay. Lily immediately knew. Walter. But when they rushed to the church shelter, volunteers told them he hadn't been there in days. Concern settled heavily over Lily. Where was he? The answer came the following afternoon. A police officer arrived at their apartment door. For one terrifying moment Lily thought something horrible had happened. Then the officer spoke gently. Are you Lily Harper? She nodded nervously. The officer handed her a small wrapped package. This was left for you. Inside the package sat a delicate silver compass and a handwritten note. Lily unfolded the paper carefully. Dear Lily. If you're reading this, I'm probably sitting in a hospital room arguing with doctors about pudding flavors. Don't worry too much. Old engines break down sometimes. I wanted you to have this compass because kindness works a lot like direction. Life gets confusing. People get lost. But kindness points us back toward each other. You reminded me how to live again. Thank you for that. Your friend. Walter. Lily's chest tightened. Hospital. Sarah whispered. The officer nodded sadly. Walter collapsed 3 days ago near the shelter. Heart complications. Which hospital? Lily asked immediately. An hour later they entered St. Mary's Medical Center. Walter looked smaller lying in the hospital bed. Tubes ran from his arms. Machines beeped softly nearby. But when he saw Lily, his tired face lit up. Well, he grinned weakly, there's my favorite troublemaker. Lily burst into tears and hugged him carefully. You scared me. Walter patted her shoulder gently. Sorry about that. Sarah stepped forward next. You paid our rent. Walter waved dismissively. I had some savings. You shouldn't have. Yes, I should. His expression turned serious. Everyone deserves a safe place to sleep. Sarah's eyes filled with tears. I don't know how to thank you. Walter looked at both of them quietly. You already did. Over the next few weeks, Walter remained in the hospital recovering slowly. Lily visited every day after school. Sometimes they played cards. Sometimes Walter told stories about Evelyn. Sometimes they simply sat together watching snow fall through the window. One afternoon Lily noticed Walter staring thoughtfully at another patient across the hall. The man looked completely alone. No visitors? Lily asked. Walter shook his head sadly. Not once. The next day Walter asked a nurse for an extra pudding cup and sent Lily to deliver it. The lonely patient smiled for the first time. Soon Lily started visiting him regularly. Then another patient. Then another. Without realizing it, Walter was teaching her something powerful. Kindness spreads. Like ripples in water. Months later Walter finally returned home to his tiny apartment near the railroad tracks. But his health remained fragile. One spring afternoon he and Lily sat watching children play baseball at the park. Do you think people can really change the world? Lily asked. Walter smiled. All the time. How? One person at a time. Lily thought about that carefully. Then she asked a question that had quietly lived in her heart for months. Why were you kind to me that day in the rain? Walter looked surprised. Then he laughed softly. Truth. She nodded. You looked exactly how I felt after Evelyn died. Lily frowned slightly. Lonely. Lost. Walter leaned back against the bench. And I figured maybe if someone had shown me kindness back then, I wouldn't have wasted so many years hiding from life. He glanced at her warmly. So I stopped walking. The baseball crowd cheered nearby as someone hit a home run. But Lily barely heard it. Because suddenly she understood something important. Kindness isn't always about saving someone. Sometimes it's about seeing them. Really seeing them. Years passed. Lily grew older. Walter became family. He attended her middle school graduation wearing the same brown coat from the rainy afternoon they first met. When Lily entered high school, she started volunteering at the church shelter every weekend. She organized food drives, collected winter clothes, helped lonely elderly residents at nursing homes. People in town began noticing. Teachers praised her compassion. Neighbors admired her maturity. But Lily always said the same thing. I learned from my friend Walter. One autumn evening during Lily's senior year, Walter invited her to dinner at his apartment. The place was small but cozy. Old photographs covered the walls. One picture showed a younger Walter and Evelyn dancing barefoot in a kitchen. Another showed them holding a newborn baby. Lily stared at the photo curiously. You had a child? Walter's smile faded slightly. A son. Where is he? Walter took a slow breath. We stopped speaking years ago. What happened? Pride. The sadness in his voice felt deep and old. He blamed me for not spending enough time with family when he was growing up. I blamed him for leaving after Evelyn died. Have you tried calling him? Walter looked down quietly. Sometimes hurt grows too large for people to cross. Lily thought about that all night. A week later she secretly searched online until she found Walter's son, Daniel, living in Chicago. She wrote him a letter. Not accusing. Not demanding. Just honest. Your father talks about you all the time. He misses you more than you know. Daniel didn't reply for weeks. Then one cold December morning, someone knocked on Walter's apartment door. Walter opened it slowly. A man in his 40s stood outside holding a suitcase. Neither spoke. For several long seconds they simply stared at each other. Then Daniel whispered, "Hi, Dad." Walter's eyes immediately filled with tears. Lily watched silently from the kitchen as father and son embraced for the first time in over 10 years. That Christmas became the happiest Walter had experienced since Evelyn died. The apartment overflowed with laughter, burnt cookies, and old memories. At one point Walter pulled Lily aside. You did this, didn't you? Lily smiled innocently. I might have mailed something. Walter hugged her tightly. You have your own kind of magic, kid. But life continued moving forward. And eventually came the day Lily feared most. It happened quietly. Walter passed away peacefully in his sleep 2 years later at the age of 76. The entire town attended his funeral. People Lily had never met approached her afterward sharing stories. He paid for my groceries when I lost my job. He visited my mother every week at the nursing home. He fixed my car for free. He bought my son winter boots. One woman cried while holding Lily's hands. Walter saved my life. Lily realized then something astonishing. The old man everyone overlooked had spent years quietly changing lives. At the funeral, Daniel stepped forward holding a folded letter. My father wrote this before he died, he explained emotionally. He wanted Lily to hear it. The church fell silent. Daniel unfolded the paper and began reading. If you're listening to this, it means my time here is over. Don't be sad too long. I had a beautiful life. But before I go, there's something I want people to understand. Kindness matters more than success. More than money. More than being right. The world teaches people to chase achievements while ignoring each other's pain. But in the end, nobody remembers how expensive your car was. They remember how you treated people. I spent too many years grieving instead of living. Then one rainy afternoon, I met a little girl standing alone outside a grocery store. She reminded me that every person carries invisible battles. And sometimes the smallest act of kindness becomes the reason someone survives another day. So if you can help someone, do it. If you can forgive someone, try. If you can love someone, love them fully. Because kindness never truly disappears. It keeps traveling from one heart to another. Daniel's voice broke as he lowered the letter. Many people in the church were crying openly. Lily pressed Walter's silver compass tightly in her hand. Years later, Lily became a social worker in Columbus, Ohio. Her office walls displayed children's drawings and handwritten thank you notes from struggling families. Every morning before work, she touched the silver compass Walter gave her. Whenever life felt overwhelming, she remembered his words. Kindness points us back toward each other. One snowy evening after work, Lily stopped at a grocery store. As she loaded bags into her car, she noticed a teenage boy sitting alone near the entrance. No jacket. No gloves. Shivering in the cold. People walked past without noticing. Lily froze for a moment. Then slowly, she smiled. Because suddenly she saw Walter standing in the rain all those years ago. Without hesitation, she removed her coat and walked toward the boy. "You'll freeze out here," she said gently. The boy looked startled. "I'm okay." Lily smiled softly. No child sitting alone in the cold is okay. And just like that, the kindness continued. One person. One moment. One heart at a time. Maybe that's how the world changes after all. Not through giant miracles or famous speeches. But through ordinary people choosing compassion when it would be easier to walk away. A stranger offering a coat. A nurse holding someone's hand. A little girl writing a letter. A lonely old man deciding to care again. Kindness doesn't always solve everything immediately. It doesn't erase grief or poverty or pain overnight. But it gives people strength to keep going. And sometimes that changes everything. Tonight, somewhere in the world, someone feels invisible. Someone feels exhausted. Someone is standing in their own version of the rain, hoping another human being notices them. You could be that person who stops walking. You could be the reason someone believes goodness still exists. Never underestimate the power of a small act of kindness. Because long after words are forgotten and years pass by, kindness remains. It echoes through lives. It heals wounds we cannot see. And it reminds people they are not alone. So the next time life gives you a chance to help someone, take it. Smile at the lonely person. Call someone you miss. Forgive when you can. Listen when someone needs to talk. Offer warmth in a cold moment. You may never fully understand how deeply your kindness affects another human being. But somewhere, someday, someone may tell a story about the moment you changed their life simply by caring. And maybe that is the greatest legacy any of us can leave behind. Because kindness, no matter how small, has the power to live forever.